Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Dan and I'm here to bring you another FPL video. In this one, we're going to be looking at an updated Game Week 1 draft. I have made some changes to my initial draft released about 6 or 7 days ago on the channel, so feel free to check that one out first if you want to see where my head was at versus now. But yeah, I felt like it was in a good place to really kind of discuss those changes and again continue on with that open thoughts process of what this draft maybe offers, what it lacks, and of course some general community questions as well that are out there. And as well as that, at the end of the video, if you'd like to stick around, guys, I have got some information on mini leagues this season, so stick around to talk about that as well. But let's jump into the goalkeeping situation first. We'll also be talking about the format of the video, just in case you didn't tune into the previous one. So underneath me, we've got the formation of this particular draft. That will be revealed slowly but surely as we get into other sections of the team. And of course, we have the team cost underneath that is accumulative as we progress through. So for each position we go through, we will be adding that total value up to showcase how much our team is costing at any given point. So for the goalkeepers, first off, it is 8.5 million. I really don't want to spend any more than that. And in my previous video, again, I have discussed in depth why that is. And to be honest with you, Leno, a 4.5 goalkeeper, really, he isn't the most attractive one for sure based on fixtures, but I do really like the opportunity that he maybe gives us in terms of save points to rectify, any clean sheet wipeouts. There are some tricky fixtures in there that I don't really see clean sheets happening, but maybe if there's an odd sneaky one in there, we get some save points plus bonus. That's kind of where my head's at. Maybe it's a bit risky to go with that. There's a lot of people that find Flecken very popular, but again, I asked that question on the previous video of can he replicate David Raya's save potential, and is he as a prolific of a shot stopper? Unproven, in my opinion, so far, so maybe it's a big question mark on going for him. We have Dean Henderson maybe lined up for a Nottingham Forest move, although Forest fixtures are very tricky in the opening 4 or 5, so lots to digest and think about really over these next few weeks with the goalkeeper. But for now, Leno does keep his place. I've then also got Areola in that 4 million goalkeeper slot. I think he has got every opportunity to be able to take that number 1 slot from Fabianski. Played in every cup game and European game for West Ham last season. And I think he is a pretty good goalkeeper. And West Ham's fixtures are in that kind of middle ground average run. So if he does get that number 1 spot, I think it's a no-brainer to go with him. There is maybe some argument that you could go with someone like Heaton if he gets his move to Luton, for example. Although in game week 2, of course, now we know the Burnley fixture has now been called off due to constructive works happening at Luton's home ground. So, I'm not saying you would need the 4 million keeper to come in Heaton in terms of your bench, but maybe you don't want to risk that blank goalkeeper there as well. But overall, guys, I don't think it's really that's too much of an exciting kind of area to discuss in that much detail. So I will move on to our defensive positions now, where there is a few talking points. So a couple of changes here. The biggest one to note is no Trent. I have opted to go without him in this draft just to see what I could build without him and see how much flexibility I can offer to the team without him in the draft. And essentially, I do think it's very, very positive with this line of thinking. So first of all, let's talk about Luke Shaw. I think one of the problems I had with my previous draft, again, if you watched it, was a question I covered about how do I get to the 5.5 million defensive price point. Yes, Estepinian maybe from game week 4 onwards is where you maybe want to hop off that Brighton defence. Fixtures get a little bit trickier around that point, and you could argue he could be a free move to a Chilwell, a James, or a Luke Shaw, maybe even a John Stones, for example, at that price point. But I think I would rather have Luke Shaw at the beginning, to be honest. That Wolves and Nottingham Forest fixture looks really good. 2 really strong home fixtures. Yes, Tottenham away in the middle is a little bit maybe tricky, but again, that kind of moves us to the straight away into the next point here, where I've not only got 1 5.5 million defender in this draft, but I've got 2. So I have the possibility of playing Ben Chilwell in game week 2 against West Ham away if I see, kind of Tottenham putting out some tremendous XG levels in the first game and think maybe United have a chance of conceding. Maybe it's worth the risk going with that Chilwell against West Ham away. Of course, we expect him to be on set pieces and we expect him to probably get more minutes than Reece James to begin with. Based on news we've had of Reece James's injury, not travelling with the squad in pre-season as well, I think it makes sense for him as a Chelsea asset to kind of focus on or look at. So I like the rotation of options there, and also as well the potential to not have to lock in that Estepinian transfer and just have Chilwell long-term as that Chelsea asset. So really like this flexibility. as opposed to being locked into that kind of Trent plus Gabriel plus Estepinian and then a 4.5 million defender. I don't really feel like there's enough value in that 4.5 million defender slot to really carry through a possible rotation in terms of longer term, right? I'd much prefer to have a 5.5 million defender. So that's the defensive lineup. We've got 33.5 million spend at that point. We now move into the midfield where we have got the 3-5-2 formation that is now revealed. We've got the team cost at this point at 72.5 million, and I have labelled it once again the 1.5 premium draft just because of that 9 million price point that Rashford sits in. So we'll start off with him as I've mentioned him. Son has come out of my team and I have replaced him with Marcus Rashford. Again, that could change by game week 1. Maybe I don't want to book in or lock in those possible transfers. But with Son, we've seen a lot of kind of media outlets talking about how he did get linked to a possible move to the Saudi League, and he's not going to do that basically because he knows how disappointing last season was. It wasn't as good as a kind of, you know, a standard that he sets himself to. He didn't achieve what he wanted to achieve, and I think this season will be much better for him. So there, for that reason, I did maybe want to take that risk with him from game week 1. That being said, when you look at Marcus Rashford, who was a bit more consistent last season, looks like he's in fantastic shape in pre-season as well. I feel like he could hit the ground running in those first opening fixtures, and it gives me the options really in terms of money I'll have probably in the bank with this draft, and also as well the flexibility to directly move Rashford onto Son if I want to jump off him, right? If he just doesn't look like he's at the races for any reason, I've got that price point covered without having to worry about one or more than one move essentially to get to them. So really like that price point being covered, and Rashford is just the personnel change that I've chosen at the moment. Saka, I think, is probably one of the most locked in individuals in this draft, if not just 100% locked in already. I think at 8.5 million, he's going to provide a tremendous amount of value. Yes, there's argument that Ødegaard and Martinelli may be able to match a similar output to him, but being on penalties and just in general, I think with the set piece threat he offers as well, I just sway that little bit more towards him, and I think FPL have made a very small mistake there in pricing him sort of 0.5 to 1 million cheaper than he should have been. So I want to take advantage of that. Bruno Fernandes next, of course, another 8.5 million midfielder. With us being linked as United to that Rasmus Højlund or number 9 striker as our kind of third signing in the window, I think could be very, very positive for this man. I've already gone through it in detail about how he was the top for chances created last season and big chances created as well. I think all we needed really was somebody to latch on the end of his chances, and it may have been argument that we could have actually gone further in terms of, you know, competing for trophies last season. I think that ultimately his FPL output does increase with a very, very strong number 9 asset for United. So let's keep an eye on the transfer market before I lock him in, but I definitely feel like he's a very strong contender at that price point to stay in this squad. And then finally, we've got the two side players here, as you can see, of Brighton for Matoma and Pascal Gross. You could throw March in there instead of these two. To be honest, again, it's just a personal preference, but I do like these two numbers. To be honest, I expect Gross to actually come through and take penalties now that McAllister is, of course, moved on. And also I expect him to move into that area of the pitch with Mac 10 being moved on as well. So I think his output potentially gets better. And with that run of fixtures, I was kind of on the fence with like, who do I go for from a Brentford attacking point of view, right? I wanted maybe a Brighton attacker and a Brentford attacker. I've gone through various combinations with Ferguson and Mbeumo, Wissa and Matoma, and I've kind of just ended up landing on 2 Brighton attackers and felt that actually, does it not make more sense to just go with what I think are better fixtures in those initial first 3? Yes, it could pay dividends. Yes, it could not work out, of course. And Mbeumo does look like he's going to be quite highly owned, but I'm not really paying attention to that so early on. I want to be able to target the players that I think and the fixtures that are maybe going to yield the most points. And I think Brighton's fixtures look like they could do that. And also with this draft, again, I've got Ben Chilwell waiting in the wings. So not only have I got flexibility with money, but I've also got flexibility with personnel on the bench to come in for one of these individuals if they don't perform over those first few weeks. So I like them as price points. In terms of coverage, I also like the fact that I don't have to, worry about owning them longer term if it doesn't work out based on how much I've paid for them. I like their opening fixtures. I like the team they're playing for. So I think Matoma and Gross are going to end up being pretty good assets for me. But again, let me know in the comments below what your thoughts are on this. I haven't seen Gross in many drafts so far, so Let me know. Let me know what your thoughts are by adding him in. And then finally, we do look at the front three. So we have got the 4.5 million forward on the bench slot. We have got the total cost now of the team being 99 million. So you can see I've got 1 million in the bank of flexibility here. And of course, these two have pretty much remained unchanged for the majority of my drafts. And I think there's good reason for that, to be honest. I mean, let's start with Gabriel Jesus. I do want that double Arsenal attack for those opening fixtures, and I just think starting with the 8 million striker makes the most sense. Not only because he has got very good fixtures and also a cumulative, his XGI is pretty good. Doesn't always finish off the chances he gets, but starting with him as a price point of 8 million means that come game week 3 or 4, if I feel like he's not putting those chances away and there is maybe better value in a 7.5 million striker, for example, Gakpo, Darwin, or Nkunku maybe comes to the forefront, we can easily downgrade Jesus without any problems. So I really like that option, and that's why I think I'm starting with him. The other 8 million strikers to note, realistically, are only Wilson and of course Watkins. Now, both of those opening fixtures for those teams aren't where I want to be honest. Again, I look at that sea of green for Jesus and Arsenal and think, surely we've got more route to points through Jesus than someone like Watkins or Wilson. So it just makes sense for me to start, I think, or most people to start with him. And then, of course, the Norwegian has no introduction required and also no justification needed, right? He's in the squad. He's pretty much nailed. I think him and Saka, maybe you could argue Estepinian as well, were absolute lock-ons for me. Maybe some of the other individuals, like we've already mentioned, are possible personnel changes. But that's the draft, guys. Let me know what your thoughts are with this one. Little bit of a shake-up. Like I say, no Trent's probably the biggest one. We've got some other questions to talk about as well, though. So let's move into the next section where we just talk about some open thoughts and just in general, not for this draft specifically, but just community overall. So again, we have covered this in the initial video before about the Manchester City midfield situation. Mahrez looks like he's probably going to be on his way to the Saudi League. Does that mean that Foden gets more minutes? I'm not so sure. Potentially plays on the right, but he only, I think, played there a minimal amount of times. Maybe Bernardo Silva gets pushed into that position more often than not. So really, I don't think that unlocks directly. We must go for Phil Foden. Of course, we've got Alvarez as well that can play there. So I don't think he's locked in either. But there is, of course, pre-season data to decide upon yet. So Pascal Gross with that 1 million in the bank could easily become one of these guys. Or I say, probably more likely Foden or Grealish. And of course, Bernardo is actually 6.5 million as well. So maybe he becomes an option. Trent, again, essential or not, could be a huge rank killer if not in the draft. I mean, I don't want to put FOMO here, but it's just... that is what I think has been driving me to have him in the drafts. I think it's well worth, if you are tinkering with your drafts, not necessarily regularly, but just every so often, maybe just look at taking him out of the draft to see what you can do with the money. And as you can see, my draft here was maybe a lot more balanced without him. I feel like there's rotationable options. We've got a lot of flexibility with the 1 million in the bank, and that isn't always possible when you've got a draft with Trent in. So just see what it feels like. Have a little look. I don't think he's essential. I don't think he's necessary, but just bear in mind that game week 2 could really hurt our ranks if we don't go with him. Of course, triple ups. For this draft specifically, there is a bit of lack of diversity. We've got triple Brighton, triple Manchester United, and triple Arsenal in this draft. So 9 out of my starting 11 players play for only 3 teams. Now, is that a problem? You could argue it is, but at the same time, I do like to watch a lot of FPL Raptor as well, a great guy in the community. If you haven't seen him, he links psychology with the game itself. And to be honest, we do, as humans, tend to want to diversify. It's a natural occurrence for us, and maybe it does blind our kind of decision-making on the sense that actually, with the fixtures in front of us, a simple way to look at it is... literally, the best fixtures normally yield the best amount of points. And this game is all about scoring the most points each week. So that's why I swung towards that double Brighton attack in the end, because I just felt like those opening fixtures made the most sense. So it kind of just removed the diversification of this squad. I just naturally went into the triple Arsenal, triple United and triple Brighton on the basis of I think they're going to yield me the most points over those opening game weeks. So let me know what your thoughts are on that. Do you think there should be that diversification? I mean, again, it's maybe a bit of an illusion because we have free transfers. So if I don't feel like one of my squad players is performing, I can just move them on to a team and a player that is performing well. So there is easy routes out of those triple ups, to be honest. So let me know your thoughts. Of course, the 4.5 million goalkeeper as well, still a talking point for me on this draft. I'm not convinced with all the options available to me. Not sure I will creep up to the 5 million mark. I know Onana, since signing for United, has maybe been on the cards for some people. There's a bit of excitement about what he could potentially do with his feet. You know, is there an assist potential there for that long ball over the top? Absolutely is the answer to that. But do I feel like 5 million is worth it for the goalkeeper? I still do not think so. I think we need to try and find value in that 4.5 million slot, and I will keep trying to find it until the game week kicks off. So that's where we're at, guys. Let me know again in the comments below if you've got any burning questions. Share your drafts, but the current state of it, I do try to reply to every single comment on every video. Of course, before we go, there is one more section that I want to talk about, which is the mini league, for the channel. I have decided to change things up a little bit for this season. Last season, I only had one mini league, and I did, of course, provide a prize for the winner of that mini league. It just so turned out, though, that more people were joining the mini league as the season went on, and I just felt like I needed to kind of put a cutoff, essentially, to who could join and be eligible for a prize based on the support of the channel. So I hope anybody that did join late into last season's mini league understood that, but it gave me the opportunity to be able to rethink what I want to do for this season. And the reality is I can split into 2 mini leagues. I can do a prize league, which means that anybody that was part of my previous mini league by default should have entered into the prize league as I refreshed the previous league. It will only be open until game week 5 closes. Once that happens, I will be completely seizing all entries. So you can only use this code up until game week 5, guys. And then beyond that, I think that will give a fair chance for all of the individuals that have supported this channel in pre-season and throughout last season. So hopefully you agree with that approach, guys. Like I say, it's a thanks to you as a community, really, for supporting me and the channel grow. And then, of course, there is a fun league that's going to be open all season. So if you just want to pit yourself against pretty much everybody, it's going to be a free-for-all, essentially, where anybody can join at any point. Maybe someone late on in the season, as late as game week 37, comes and joins and pips the cup from somebody, but it is just meant to be fun. I don't want that to happen for the prize league. So again, hopefully that makes sense. I just wanted to clarify why there are 2 mini league codes in the description of my videos and why I'm sharing them with you today. So that's going to wrap up the video, guys. Thank you very much for tuning in, as always. Of course, there will be more pre-season content coming your way. Maybe a couple of, deeper dives into just some player positions and some statistics. Haven't done any of those for a little while, so maybe I'll do some deep dive into positions. And of course, no doubt I'll be sharing future drafts for you as well. If you did enjoy the content, guys, then do smash that thumbs up. Really helps the channel, and of course, easiest way to support it. Of course, as well as that, please do subscribe to the channel for all future updates and content releases. I'll be by your side all season long. So thank you very much for tuning in again, guys, and I will see you in another video soon. Take care.